Okay, part 2 of the video to build a workshop clock. As you can see, I've stuck on the templates from the blown up image and cut out on the bandsaw the MDF parts. It's just 3 parts, very simple. Filing these edges down took a long time, so what I decided to do was to get them into rough shape and then use a piece of acrylic which has release agent sprayed onto it as a form of surface to place Bondo onto the MDF. In other words, put a bit of Bondo on the MDF, squish on the acrylic, and it leaves a nice smooth finish. In places I needed an L section or a right angle, so I superglued 2 pieces of acrylic together to form a perfect right angle, and then used those as a form of impression mold, sprayed with a little bit of release agent to basically give a nice smooth finish. Trying to rub down MDF with sandpaper and files takes a long time and doesn't produce a very good finish. So the MDF, the Bondo on the MDF produced a very, very fine surface, and as you'll see in later segments, I used it in a number of places to improve the surface finish and to get a better representation. As you can see, I spent quite a bit of time filing down and getting it to a reasonable finish, but it wasn't good enough to paint, certainly with a silver finish, and so that's why I used the Bondo in the end. You could literally spend hours and hours filing away and not get a finish suitable for spraying. I guess using the Bondo was cheating, but hey, anything to get the job finished. In the film industry back in the UK, we use Bondo, or its equivalent, a lot on models and effects. It's invaluable. Here you can see the acrylic I used, just pushed into the Bondo to give a nice finish, and then while it's still slightly rubbery, I trimmed off the excess and the overflow of Bondo with a sharp scalpel, and that left a really nice finish. All it required is a rub down with about 300 to 360. That's the right angle jig I made, held on with a couple of clamps while the Bondo cures, and that gives me a finish on both surfaces. Again, any excess was rubbed down with sandpaper. That's the finish that you get with the Bondo. Much, much better than just a raw sanded finish on MDF. Now here you can see some of the parts that were worked on with the Bondo and the acrylic. When you're spraying the silver spray paint that I was using, I needed as fine a surface as I could possibly get, and these produced quite a nice finish in the end. Now this is sprayed black so that you can see it on the video. It's not necessary to spray the parts black. I see some people do that, and it's supposed to help with the silver finish. But it would have to be a very high gloss black, which I couldn't achieve on this. I could have just as easily painted it with grey primer or white primer. Here I was drilling into one of the blades to insert some screws. I then cut the heads off the screws and used the sharp points to make a mark on the main body of the calipers. That enabled me to drill a hole in both sides, and I used Bondo and whitewood glue to secure the part onto the main body, or the main blade. After drilling the holes on this side, I used a countersink bit to get rid of all the swarf, the pieces of MDF that you can see, or the pieces in this case of maple that you can see in the hole. Without doing this, when you try and put the two halves together, there'd be a gap. Nice tight fit, but I used, as I said, Bondo and whitewood glue to secure the two pieces together. In fact, all the pieces that were on this particular caliper are joined in that way. As you can see, there's some rubbing down been done. There's just one coat of a silver, or chrome as they call it, paint on there. I applied the numerals and the markings from sheets of vinyl lettering that I got from Amazon. After which I gave a couple of coats of a clear high gloss lacquer, and I noticed it made the finish, or the silver finish, go grey, which was an advantage, as you'll see later, because I wanted the centre section a different colour from the blades and the outer portion of the main shaft. Here you can see I'm dusting off with a airline the centre section just before I give it a coat of high gloss lacquer to seal all of the vinyl parts. I ended up giving it 2 or 3 coats. As I said, it made the paint go grey, very dull silver, but that was an advantage really, because I masked that section off afterwards and sprayed again with the silver without coating it with the lacquer, and that left a nice dual tone which matched the original vernier that I have. I show a close-up later on in the video which shows the differentiation between the grey after it's been sprayed with a high gloss lacquer, and then the unprotected area which is just a silver or chrome paint without a high gloss lacquer on top of it. There's quite a bit of difference. You have to be very careful when you remove the masking not to rip off the lettering. Even though it's covered with a few coats of the clear lacquer, you can still do damage if you're not careful. This is the low-tack painter's tape, again available from Home Depot, and be careful not to let the tape touch the freshly painted chrome surface as I did there. It does make a mark, and I had to recover that, or recoat it with the silver paint or chrome paint. I took it off almost immediately after I'd sprayed so that I didn't get any flakes of paint, which sometimes happens when you leave the paint to dry for too long. There you can see the difference it makes when you spray the center section with a high gloss lacquer and leave the rest of it uncoated. Now I'm going to attach the main clock housing onto the body of the calipers. I'm using an old rug here. It's nice and soft and won't do damage to the housing on the calipers when you turn it over. To be very careful with the uncoated silver paint because it is very fragile. I've already pre-drilled the holes and countersunk them, and it's just held together with 3 screws. The whole thing is very light, and I just use a couple of eye hooks on the back to secure it to the wall. For the video I'm just securing it to a piece of plywood, but eventually it will be hung up on the wall, about 10 foot off the ground, so it can be seen from anywhere in the workshop. In this shot you can see the block inside the housing, the clock housing, that holds that knurled knob on top. As you can see, I haven't finished the back. Nobody's going to see it. It does have a coat of lacquer on there to stop it getting wet, but that's about it really. That's a close-up of the grey in the middle and the brighter silver on the outside. Just by giving it a coat of high quality high gloss lacquer, it makes that much difference. And that really simulates what's on the actual size model. I hope you've enjoyed the video and it's given you some ideas of what can be done. You're welcome to use the STL files as you wish, modify them or make them bigger, larger, smaller, whatever you like. You have a great day and I hope to see you back here soon.